Okay, guys, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel on the podcast. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly Dungeon Master today. Well, kind of your Dungeon Master. Today, we are kicking off a new short campaign where we're going to be playing the starter set for Star Trek Adventures from Modiphius. As is likely obvious, because we're going to be playing through the preset adventure in this, there will be spoilers in this episode. Or in this series of episodes. So if you are going to play through the adventure in this, A Star Beyond the Stars, then you may not want to watch this. But if you want to learn about the Star Trek Adventures camp or role-playing game and to see some people actually playing it, then that's what we will be doing here today. And speaking of the people playing through today, the stars of the Star Trek Adventures campaign, A Star Beyond the Stars, are with me here today. So first up, let me do some introductions, guys. Say who you are, who you're playing, and I'll start with James.
Good evening. Tonight I'm playing Lieutenant Commander Zhang Nian. So I'm the con officer of the Magellan.
Nice. Okay, and next up is Arlen.
Hi, I'm Arlen, and I'm playing Lieutenant T'Prel, a Vulcan medical officer.
Nice.
And yeah.
And last but not least is Jeffrey.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeff, and I am playing Hanor Dell, and he is a Trill engineer.
Let's, I can actually give some, there we go. So here's our con officer. And there is our medical officer.
I would just like to point out the sheets look very nice, but I find reading pink text on navy background hard.
Yeah, I would agree. And there is our chief engineer. Okay, so yeah, I would tend to agree. It looks very Star Trek-y, but it's a unusual decision. And actually, like all the actual books.
Yeah, the rule books are white text on black, and it's.
I'll point out that Hanor is always carrying around that object in the picture, but he never tells anyone what it is.
He always looks like he's on his way to do something important.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so guys, now before we went live, we talked a bit about how we're going to approach this, and what we're going to do is we're going to use this. I have not run Star Trek Adventures before. I've run the Conan 2D20 game, which is based on the same engine, the dice mechanic that drives this game, quite a few times before, but this is a very different game from that. No one else has played this before too, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through and follow the introductory adventure, which does a pretty good job of teaching you the systems and the mechanics as we go through. So the first thing let's maybe talk about is the actual interface with the character sheets. So let me, who do I need to hide here? So no one is playing Lenaris Loss, so I'll put him to DM only. Let's see here. Okay, I think he's out of your. Boom. So he's gone. Good. So I know which the player characters are, and we've got no one playing Quelus Zaroth. And boom. Okay. Now, this game uses dice pools of D20. There's two dice. Well, two different types of dice we use in this. There's challenge dice, which are the effect dice, and there are the task resolution dice. The task resolution dice will always be pools of D20. Now, in this version of the game, you're always going to be starting with a dice pool of 2D20. So your starting point is going to be rolling 2D20. At default, what you will be doing is selecting two different things, your attribute and your discipline. The attributes in this game are very broad: control, and very Star Trek-y too. Control, fitness, presence, daring, insight, and reason. And then what you'll do is also click on a discipline. And these are just sort of the general areas of task resolution that you would expect to see in a Star Trek adventure. It's command, con, security, engineering, science, and medicine. And the way that they describe like how you figure out the pairing of those things, the discipline is largely going to be determined by the type of task that you're going to do, and the attribute will be sort of how you're approaching that. So your control is your character's self-discipline, coordination, and fine motor skills. If you're trying to, fiddle with a comm pad or something like that, or like a control pad on a wall, you're probably going to be using control and engineering. If you are doing, if your daring is bravery and quick thinking or acting without hesitation. Finesse is your physical strength and stamina. Insight is understanding about the environment and other people. Presence is your force of personality and your ability to command respect and attention. And reason is your logical and problem-solving abilities. So, for instance, instead of actually fiddling with the controls to fix something, if you're just trying to figure out what the problem was, it would be reason and engineering. What you're going to do then is the dice mechanic thing will do this for you. You can see on your character sheet, you see where the dice roller screen is on the right side of your character sheet.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some stuff that's in purple and there's stuff that's white. The task roll, there's a number of things from 1 to 5 on there. That's how many dice you're going to roll. So if you set it to 2, and then I'm on Lieutenant Commander Zhang's thing here. Let's say I'm going to do control and command because I have selected them at gray. You can see they're grayed out. So I've got clicked on control, clicked on command, and then I click on the little Starfleet icon. Boom, it'll roll the dice for me. And it tells me how many successes I get from each of them. Now you guys will also see that there are things on your character sheet that are called focuses. A focus is a specialization for your character. It's some kind of special implementation of your character's experience or training or education or whatever. If you've got a focus that will apply, what will happen is, well, before we talk about that, let's talk about critical hits and critical failures. If you roll a 20 on any of your dice rolls, something bad happens. It's a complication that comes up. Something an unforeseen negative externality arrives. And then the game at defaults, we kind of talk about it to figure out. But if you guys want, in Conan, I'm the one who just it's me who determines what the complication is. So probably what I'll do is I'll pitch something to you, unless you've got something specific in mind. And then if you agree with that, then we'll have that as the complication. Or what I can do is just take it as threat. Threat is, well, are you guys all familiar with the momentum mechanic from Conan? You are?
Yeah.
Yeah. James, I think you're muted.
Yep.
Oh, no, you're not muted. Sorry, you're muted in here. No, okay. So let's take a look at, let's say that one thing that does not show up on the dice or the dice roller here is the difficulty. What the difficulty is how many successes you need to roll. So at default, let's take focuses out of this just for a moment. If you roll a 1 on your dice on one of the D20s, it counts as 2 successes. If you roll the number equal to the combine of your attribute plus your discipline or less, that's 1 success. And if you roll more than that, it's a failure. If you roll a 20, it's a complication. And we'll deal with that in a moment. But let's say that I ask, so I'm on Lieutenant Commander Zhang's thing here. Let's say that I need you to, figure out what's wrong with, the starter is not working on the, what do you call it, on a shuttlecraft. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to do reason and con. So would you click? Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now on the dice roller, I'm looking at your focuses, and this is sort of like to avoid getting around the what happened in earlier versions of Star Trek role-playing games where you had these massive skill lists, is you just get focuses. What a focus does is it expands that range for double successes. So it expands it up to equal your discipline. So for instance, in yours, James, in Lieutenant Commander Zhang has a focus on shuttlecraft. So because what you're working on is a task related to shuttlecraft, you can click on yes for focus. And I'll set the difficulty at 1. And then why don't you go ahead and click on the task roll. Let's see what happens. Boom. Okay, so you only got 1 success on that, but that's enough to get a success. Now, if you had rolled your a number, let's say you rolled a 3 on one of those dice, what that means is that you guys, you would get double success as well because your focus applies. We look at what your discipline is, and that's the number that you get to roll, that or less. Your thing will calculate this for you automatically, so you don't need to watch it too closely, but just so you understand where that number is coming from. Now, let's say that I'm going to click it one more time and see if we can get a better result here. No. Yes. Okay, great. So we got 3 results. So what that did is we now have the reason you got 2 successes on that one dice roll is because, let's see here, you rolled a 3, which is equal to or less than your con discipline. So that counted as double successes. What this means is you've got 2 more successes than you needed to actually just achieve the task. What you then generate is something called momentum. And what momentum can be used for is, well, there's a bunch of different things. I've got a handout here for you guys. This is a rules reference that has different kind of typical spends for momentum that you can use. So momentum can be used to do things like to create a problem, create an opportunity. And these are things that will add extra dice to your tasks or will increase the difficulty of tasks. You can get some kind of new advantage. And then in combat, there's very specific tasks you can get. So in this one, let's say that you got your 2 momentum. What you could choose to do, is use that. So you got a success, which means I'll give you 1 piece of information, and then you could also spend each point of momentum to learn more, more information. Like say maybe that someone sabotaged this. It's not only that you've identified what's the problem, you've identified and how to fix it. You've also identified that this was sabotage. And then maybe if you spent another point of momentum, I could tell you, well, it seems like it's sabotaged by someone who does not know engineering terribly well. It was a fairly clumsy effort at that. That's that's how you could spend the momentum that's generated from doing even better than normal. You can also choose to bank that. So what that becomes is part of the momentum pool. And for the rest of the scene, other players or yourself on their turns, they can then make use of that stuff. So they can use that. And the way you use momentum is to buy extra dice. So if, let's say that on the next turn, we've got, Lieutenant Dell. Now, Lieutenant Dell, I need you to make a quick engineering. Let's say I need you to fix that that problem with the what do you call it? The sabotage propulsion system. It's gonna be a difficulty 2 task, and I think, well, what do you think you would be using to try and fix that? That's you, Jeff.
Oh, sorry.
So what do you think you would use? It's difficulty 2.
Maybe his reason.
Yep. And engineering. Okay.
Yeah,
now,
so then you click.
Well, first off, let's take a look at your focuses. Are there any foci that you think would apply here?
So astrophysics, power systems, warp drive, damage. Is that damage reporting procedures all one thing? Or is damage one thing and reporting procedures?
No, let's say damage reporting procedures.
Okay. Sorry, and what did you say that was the...
It's a shuttlecraft.
Oh, right. Okay. So, of course, small craft. So then I would hit focus, yes.
Yep. And then, so right now you've got 2 dice in the dice pool, but Lieutenant Commander Zhang generated 2 momentum. So what you could do is click up and take 4 dice instead.
Right. So you change the task roll up to 4.
That's right. Yep.
Does the complication range change?
Complication range, no. That's only... I actually don't know how the...
So my understanding of complication range is that as the action escalates, the complication range, so instead of rolling a 20, you can get it so that you have a complication on a 19 or 20 or an 18 or 20 or a 17 or 20.
Ignore that. Ignore that
Yeah.
for now. That's something that comes later in the adventure, so we'll ignore that stuff for now.
And now there are 2 symbols. Which one do I click? The top one or the bottom one?
The top one. The bottom one is the challenge dice with the D6s.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So click on that.
This sucker here.
Boom. Okay, so we got a complication out of that, but you got 4 successes. So not only did you complete the task, and then we'll fill in whatever the narration is for you fixing the damn thing. You also generated 2 things, but there's also a complication. So what I might say is that, what I might say as a complication is that, well, you were able to fix it, no problem. But the difficulty is that it's going to affect the performance until this thing gets a proper overhaul. You've got it working again, but it's not
There's an issue with it.
There's an issue with it, and that becomes a complication that will always bump the difficulty up by 1. You also have 2 momentum left over. And normally you can't spend that to negate the complication that comes up immediately, or at least I'm not going to let that happen.
Right.
But what you could do is bank it. Let's say we now go back to Lieutenant Commander Zhang, and she is going to now try and take this thing out of the hangar. Well, because of the complication, the difficulty that would normally be 0, which is a pretty standard thing of getting it out there, now it's a 1. But because of the momentum, you could choose to spend the momentum to do something else. Like what do you think you might do with the those 2 points of momentum? Would you want to bank that, or do you want to pay it forward to the next person?
Yeah. I guess I could spend it to obtain information.
Yeah, like looking at
that might give me information about what's wrong, so that when we go to fix it, we actually have a better chance, or what?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I buy that. So you create an advantage. You spend 2 momentum to create an advantage. That means you're automatically getting an extra dice. Wait, is that it? Or was it? No, advantage drives the what do you call it? It's the difficulty down by 1.
Okay.
Okay. So that is the way that works. There is also on your character sheet, and then to be honest, that's how most things work in this. It's all going to be figuring out if you've got a focus that applies. The only thing
so it says obtain information means you might give us some information about what's wrong.
Yes, exactly.
So you would just say something like, "Oh, I don't know, the warp drive is damaged," or
what I would probably do is, though, the information is going to be something that will drive the story forward. So it might be something, like I said, like the information that if Lieutenant Commander Zhang had not spent it on information and instead bumped it onto you, well, then maybe I give you that information. You would say, like, you can tell that it was sabotaged. One bit of things is it's not just that it was a problem; it was an actual sabotage. And the other thing you can know, a bit of information, is that it was by someone who does not have a great deal of expertise. It's the throwing a wrench into gears, but a space version. It's not someone who cleverly knew how to manipulate that propulsion system. So then that might, if it became an issue in our adventure to try and track down who that person was, that's some pretty useful information that you could use then.
Right.
Like in Conan, is there a maximum size to the momentum pool?
There is a maximum size momentum pool of 6, and there's a maximum dice pool of 5. You'll never roll more dice than 5. However, you can aid another. Everybody can choose to try and help someone, and then what you do is basically you describe how you're doing that. We set we set the appropriate attribute and ability or discipline, and then you make your roll against a DC of 1. Any momentum that you generate in that goes directly into the main task. Oh, you roll. Sorry, you only roll 1 dice for that, though.
Okay.
So let's say like T'Prel was sort of I
could help reason and engineering like this. 1 dice, complication range 1, no focuses. Did not help with figuring out.
Just her insight was not particularly helpful. Exactly, and that's how the that's the game writ large. The only other thing I'll mention right now, just because it comes into play in the dice mechanics. I got everyone out here. Is determination. So you guys can see you've each got a point of determination right now. Determination is the meta currency in this game. It's the thing you can spend to buy automatic successes. Determination is used to buy. Well, there's a couple things you can do with it, but the main thing we need to focus on for now is it'll give you an extra dice for dice pools up to the max of your 5, but it's treated as if it rolled a 1, so you automatically get 2 successes out of that.
Even if you don't have a focus, you get
even if you don't have a focus. Well, a 1 is always going to be
1 is always 2 successes.
Yeah.
A lower than your whatchamacallit discipline is 2 successes if you have a focus in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. And then the determination is the only restriction for it is that it has to tie into one of your values. Each of your character has a very kind of kind of flowery description of what their values are. This is it's a way of kind of structuring mechanical incentives for role playing. As long as you can pick, sort of a justification for it through one of your values, then you can spend determination to do that. I think that's it for. We'll get into things like stress and damage and stuff like that when that comes up. But for now, I think that's probably good enough. The game is intended to run very narratively, like very loose mechanically. It's got a fun, like what I found with Conan is that it had a really, really fun, exciting kind of, up and down, ebb and flow kind of pacing to the dice maneuvers. And one way to maximize your your mastery of that is to try and build on success. So, one of the things the example I always use for Conan was like, I think we've all seen Conan the Barbarian before. The scene of our heroes infiltrating Thulsadum's lair, where they're going through and we see them sneaking past guys and going past that room with all the people soup in it. Mechanically, what you could say is that these guys were rolling a series of stealth rolls, and they were slowly building up momentum, so that when they went into the combat encounter, they had a nice fat momentum pool that they could draw on to help their dice rolls. And further, you sort of try to build towards someone who needs to have a big fat dice pool. Conan opens that scene by kind of a massive intimidation attack that probably has an area effect on it too, and tries to sort of like intimidate everybody. Assuming he dipped into the dice pool for that, that's what he was using. He's using his what do you call it? His momentum pool to try and make a really, really good result. Mm-hmm. We found also in Conan in play too, if you've got someone like in that one, sorcerers need to get good dice rolls in order to get successes. So you need to sometimes what the players would do is build up the momentum pool so the sorcerer could draw all on that on his turn or her turn. Mm-hmm. Another way you can get momentum that's worth saying is you can choose to give me something called threat, and what threat is? It's called Doom in Conan. Oh, James, we still got you?
Yep.
Okay, cool. We say you're kind of flickering in Roll20. If you don't have any momentum, but you really need the extra dice, you want to get some, get some extra dice for your dice roll. You can choose to give me something called threat. And what threat is basically it's my momentum pool for the enemies. This is. I've had one player one time react kind of like, well, this is just, it's so adversarial, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's the wrong way to think of that mechanic. Like, it's important in this mechanic for me to get threat so that, like, the climactic encounters are as exciting and thrilling and whatnot as it should be. And it's also important for you guys to get the cinematic results you want to be buying that. So on your turn, if you want to get some extra dice for your dice pool, remember that you can always just buy dice by giving me threat. Now, my starting threat pool is equal to 2 times how many players you've got. And I'm going to keep track of my threat pool. It's not as cool as my big red gem Doom dice that I used a couple of years ago. But I got my little threat things that come in the that look like red alert symbols. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in there, and that's what we're starting our adventure with. I've got 6 threat. And you guys start with no momentum. You got to do stuff to get some momentum, guys. All right. So does that give you guys enough of an understanding of kind of how we're going to be using the character sheets and what the dice results are going to be?
Yep.
Yes, I think so.
Excellent.
We'll see it go in action as we play, and then it'll
yeah.
make even
Okay.
more sense.
Now let's because we're playing through a pre-made adventure 2. I love boxed text and trying to make it sound interesting. So we will be making use of the actual box text that's in here. But to give you guys a background, so all of your characters are part of the kind of like command staff on the USS Magellan. The USS Magellan is a Galaxy-class starship. This adventure takes place during the Next Generation era as well. So you can kind of picture this is pre-Dominion War. This is when you're still wearing those like late season, because I think these are the later season or mid-season uniforms. They're not the first season uniforms because they got that gray stuff underneath. Yeah, that's so this is before the Dominion War kicks off, but not like, you know, first season weird spandex, you know.
And the colors have changed. The red shirts now are the command people and not the engineering people.
Oh yeah, well that's from the original era versus Next Generation.
Okay, well I'm not a Star Trek expert, but I just noted.
Sorry. You know what? Then Arlen, I will assume that you know nothing about it, and I'll explain everything for this because that's
I've seen the new movies, but not much else.
No, and that's one of the things that's that happened in Next Generation was that in and I don't know if I honestly don't know if it was a response to the running jokes about red shirts, because if you've heard the jokes about red shirts, what they're referring to
I
is
know about that.
Yeah.
It was a shame to remove that meme.
It really was. Although someone like, of course, like someone did a statistical breakdown of the like mortality rates for it. Turns out being a red shirt is actually one of the safest things to be, because it's usually bad shit happens to the other members. But yeah, so the colors you guys have, red is used for navigation, flight control, and command. Yellow is used for engineering, for security, and I think that's it. Blue is used for medical, science, and counseling. We don't have anyone playing a counselor in this, so we don't.
I have pretty good insight, so I might be able to help if somebody has problems like that.
Excellent. There you go. You know, and I shouldn't joke. I mean, like, one of the things that is really cool about this game, I think, at least what I've heard, is that because of the way, like, how loosey-goosey kind of the mechanics are, it really does allow you to play up the sort of the themes of Star Trek, right? It's Star Trek at its core is largely about mystery and personnel and you know, interaction with people. You know, it's problems and mysteries. That's, I mean, with the DS9 era, it becomes about war as well too. But even that, there's still largely, you know, it's about character, and that's what this game really does quite well. I have not read the rules in greater detail yet, because I don't need to know the XP stuff for this session. But from what I've been told, the characters, you're not really like seeing your character's numbers increase. You're moving stuff around as your character evolves. But the thing that increases mechanically is largely your starship. Your starship will change and become and develop as you go along, because that's a shared resource. And we're going to get into that over the course of these adventures as well. But for today, we're going to walk, you know, before we transport. Star Trek. All right. Now, so let's start off with an entry from the captain's log. Now, if I had been more clever, I would have queued up a little bit of a Star Trek intro for you guys, but we will do that between now and the next session. So, captain's log, stardate 47515.4. We are in the remote Elcona sector, investigating the disappearance of the USS Alcibiade. After 3 days in this unpopulated region of space, we found a promising lead. Hours ago, long-range sensors detected a vessel in the presence of subspace interference. The ship is several parsecs outside Federation territory. The Alcibiade was on a special assignment, testing new engine systems designed to exceed Warp 5 without damaging subspace. Just as an aside, it's a pretty interesting call out to a really obscure thing that showed up in like one episode of Next Generation and then was never referenced again. But there are some deep cuts in this adventure.
Nice.
So I can only surmise that something went terribly wrong with the experiments. We're going to pick up with the, you know, in the cinematic version of this, we see, you know, the ship drops out of warp and is drifting along through space. It has the actual registry number for the Magellan, not the Enterprise that I have on screen there. But here's what we got here. So once in visual range of the vessel, oh crap, and I forgot to upload one more thing. God dang it. So you know what I'm gonna do? I will upload it between now and the next session, but let me just show you something here, guys. Well, hold on. Has everyone seen Wrath of Khan before?
I have not.
Back in the mist of time.
Although I know about some of the memes that came out of it because I saw Star Trek Into Darkness and people compared the two.
Yeah, they're really. If you haven't seen it, Arnold, it is really totally worth watching. It's great, even just as like a naval film. The guy who directed it, not Nick Sparks, what's his name? Nick something or other. He used Horatio Hornblower as the inspiration for how to portray Starfleet. It's pretty fucking cool. It's a great story too. Real good draw on what do you call it? On like deep cut lore as well. One sec here. I'm trying to find the. Oh, for Pete's sake. So what you see, guys, what I'm trying to fumble through here with is there is something. The Alcibiade is a Oberth class vessel. So if you do a search for the Oberth, Oberth, you can see it. It's a vessel that gets. Oh, it's not in Wrath of Khan. It's in Search for Spock. Sorry, Search for Spock is where that vessel appears very briefly. It is, so it's the only thing you kind of need to know about the Oberth. It's a much smaller vessel than the Galaxy class. This Galaxy class is designed to carry thousands of crew. It has full families on it. This is the vessel from the Next Generation film. It's designed to basically be a small town or city in space that goes around and gets involved in adventures. It's getting away from the design idea behind the Galaxies to get away from it just being a fleet vessel and more towards like a traveling community. The Oberth is still very much in that older design. It's a design of vessel that's probably about 100, close to 100 years old, but it's been retrofitted like a lot of other things. But it is more focused on science science primarily, not even exploration. So this is that's the type of vessel by comparison that you can see. All attempts at establishing communication with the Alcibiade have gone unanswered, because once you're in visual range of the Oberth class starship, you see no signs of external damage. So the starship is drifting along. There's no damage to the exterior, but it's adrift. It does not seem to have its engines powered up, and all attempts at communication go unanswered. The localized subspace interference scrambles sensor scans, which unfortunately also renders transporters inoperable. But you need answers. Is anyone alive over there? What happened to them in their ship? Your only recourse is to send an away team over in a shuttlecraft. Now, if this was a ongoing campaign, we'd probably want to concern ourselves with who the captain is, but this session is not about the captain, it's about his command crew. So, unsurprisingly, the captain has requested that Lieutenant Commander Zhang, Lieutenant Dell, and Lieutenant T'Prel, you go over. And if I were to justify the selections here, comm officer to get over there safely, because it's going to require some careful shuttlecraft piloting. We need an engineer to see what the hell's gone wrong with the ship, and we need a medical officer to see if there's anyone who's been injured on that vessel, and if they need help, to provide that help. I think that's
a fine command decision, sir.
Very logical.
So, there's another thing in this game that are called traits. And if you've played Fate before, you may be familiar with what those things are. You kind of like, it's a thing that you would, in Fate, you write it on a card, and then you put it down, and it becomes a thing that affects the situation. The Margaret Weiss Marvel superheroes game has the same type of thing. What this means is that basically it's a thing that is always going to affect when you're in that scene or in that location. What this is, there's a location trait for the Alcibiade, which is subspace interference. So what that means is sensor scans and communications cannot penetrate this interference. This prevents the players from performing tasks related to their ship's sensors. This means that you will not be able to scan the vessel for life signs. And since you can't acquire a sensor lock, you're not able to transport over there. The player ship, and also once you get over there, you will not be in communication with the Magellan. It also means you won't be able to be in communication with each other. It also means
just about to ask if we could do short range communication. No,
each of you guys, if you look on your, I mean, I think the engineer and the medical officer, you have some different materials on you, but the your communications in Next Generation is through your comm badge. It's a little gold thing you have on your thing. You touch it and you make a link to someone else. You can talk to them. Your tricorder is sort of like your general purpose scanning device. Some of you guys may have specialized devices like the engineering one and the med kit. And I can't remember, we'll see as we go through here. I don't remember if those give you a bonus, but generally speaking, the way that equipment works in a 2D20 game is just that it allows you to do a thing. If you don't have that equipment, you just can't, if you don't have an engineering kit, you may not be able to actually do certain tasks, or you might suffer a penalty by not having that stuff.
Right.
Okay. So, if you're with your engineering kit, feeling the pulse of the warp engines is not as effective as having your tricorder and scanning the darn thing and whatnot. So what that means is the range of your tricorders is likewise going to be fairly restricted. And because as is always the case going into an uncertain situation, I think each of you guys has only a Phaser Mark 1 that you've been outfitted with. Phaser Mark 1 is the standard, hand-to-hand weapon. This Arlen 2 is the Next Generation era, where it doesn't fire out pulses like the way it does in the J.J. Abrams film. It's a solid beam of light that goes out.
And the Type 1 is the small laser pointer one, and the Type 2 is the pistol one.
A Type 2 one is slightly bigger, and then the Type 3 is the rifle type thing.
Okay.
Then, so that's what you know. So do you guys have is there anything you want to do before you head over there, or any stuff you want to deal with in the captain's ready room? That's where you guys will be meeting. Just off of the bridge is the captain's ready room, where sort of the senior level command staff meets to talk to the captain. So the captain has discussed this with you guys, tasked you with this. Anything you want to ask him or her before you guys set off in a shuttlecraft?
Well, I want to say that because hesitation is as bad as inaction, if we have anything to discuss, let's do it while walking to the shuttlecraft instead of standing around here.
Love it. So the doctor is ready to go.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What about Lieutenant Commander?
Let's go.
Yep. Lots to learn over there. A
Okay.
complete mystery.
Excellent. So you guys head down to the shuttle bay, and you are there's a couple tasks that we need to do here. Now, the reason it's worth mentioning the trait is because a trait can sometimes, like other things, it's in other games we just have that as a thing that we just describe as being well, this is happening here. One of the neat things I think about this game, setting it up as a trait, is it does kind of call out that this is something that maybe isn't permanent. And you can, with your actions or whatever else, you can change that circumstance. So, whatever is causing the subspace interference, you guys may be able to do something to negate or to just remove that trait altogether.
Right.
Okay. And it's a clever game mechanic to help kind of be hey, this is a thing, and you can interact with it sometimes. You don't necessarily need to, but it does give you something you can potentially do to try and help things out. If you can get rid of that, then suddenly you got access to the full, resources of this massive galaxy class vessel, right? So that's something I think is clever. I think it's a neat little bit of game design that draws your attention slightly in a very subtle way to being hey, here's something you can do other than just fight. So, for you guys to be able to make your way over in the shuttlecraft, first thing you're going to need to do is to plot a course. As I said, the Alcibière is sort of drifting in space, so you're going to need to calculate a flight path to get over there, and then we'll be following it as you get over there. because of the subspace interference as well, I'm imagining that it's going to interfere with some of the like flight control stuff that's on there. Your readings will not be dependable, so you do want to try and track that course over there as best as you can. This is going to be a reason and con test task with a difficulty of 1. So who do we see? Who do we think is going to do that?
Ooh, that'll be me.
Nice.
Yeah, I
All
was
right.
gonna say it's the con officer's job, right?
Yep. Yeah, Leanne is going to do that. So, Leanne, first. So again, we'll talk through this one more time. You're going to click on your reason and your con. You're going to start rolling with 2d20. But do you wish to buy any momentum, any extra dice for that? You can buy up to 3 and get more to give me threat. You don't have to, but it's a choice you can make. What do you think?
I'm feeling confident. Should be straightforward. I'm
Okay.
a good pilot.
Yeah, it's only difficulty 1 as well. So go ahead and make your roll. Nice. Okay, no problem. So what do we see as as she sits down and kind of calculates this flight path?
So I've got the screens up and we just smoothly launch out of the launch bay. It's my favorite shuttle, the Chingshu.
Nice.
We'll swoop on around towards this Oberth class.
Okay.
Sliding gently up towards her.
Excellent. So you're sort of going along, and then once you get within a certain distance of the Oberth, we see this lovely little silver craft that it looks very much like a doorstop, but with rounded edges. Goes out and across the blackness of space. As you get closer to the drifting vessel, it's a little. I think it's weird to see a vessel like this with no lights inside. This is it's in contrast to the sort of darkness of space background. Drifting against the stars that populate that empty void. It's so strange seeing a starship that is just dead, like to all appearances, just dead metal, and that kind of unnatural feeling is exacerbated when you get in, when suddenly red lights come on everywhere as the flight control sensors kind of fritz out, and you hear a woman's voice saying, "Sensors inoperative." Now, what I'd like you to do is to please make a. Oh, one thing I forgot to do is someone else could have helped with that as well. Let's go back and bomb Berlin here. Someone else can help with calculations by making a computers and con check, and that may potentially add a momentum. You only roll 1 dice for it.
Computers and con. What is computers?
And con?
Oh, sorry. So the computers. Forgive me. That's for the vessel. So the computers. One of the things you can do. In this game is all vehicles and starships and stuff like that are all abstracted. So what you do is if you need to make a, let's see here, is there a dice roll here? Oh, there isn't an easy dice roller on here. Why don't we do this then? Just go ahead and give me roll a 1d20, somebody, and I'm going to compare the computers for the shuttlecraft. So just like characters, all the vehicles have stats as well, guys. So that's what, boom, they look like. And then what you're doing, okay, so that is not great. The computers is 6, and the con is 1 for this. So it's not great. But you, what do you call? So you try to get something on the computers, but it just doesn't really add much to Leanne's calculations, so you're off. All right, now as you approach there, let's see here. So what you've done is you've calculated the best course to the Alcibier's docking port, adjusting for attitude and rotation rate of the silent ship. Using your calculations, Lieutenant Zhang, you depart the shuttle bay for the science vessel. Now, let's see here. So the shuttle. Okay, so this is cool. So what it is the vessel can always sort of help out, like depending on how high performance and whatever else the vessel is, it may generate more successes or momentum for your character. So would you kindly, Jeff, since you made the roll already, give me another D20 roll. This is going to be for engines and con.
Okay.
The engines are 5, the con is 1, so it's a 6 or less. It's not great.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So now what I need is, if Lieutenant Zhang, I need you to make a control and con check. So this is you actually, now that the red lights have come on, and you're getting in closer, you're going to try and one second here. Let me check here. Yes, I'm sorry. So go ahead and give me a pilot. There's something that's going to happen. I couldn't remember if it was only in response to your roll or not. Would you kindly give me a control and con roll? This is you actually now maneuvering it through thrusters and whatnot to get it into place.
Right. Oops. Sorry, control and con.
Control and con, yeah. So control is when you're trying to manipulate something, and con is because you're, piloting something. Oh, okay. Now,
That's not good.
Can we do the aid another?
No, not retroactively. No. You have to
not
do that
retroactively.
Beforehand.
Okay.
However, one principle that follows forward from Conan that I love is succeed at cost. What that means is that you're going to generate there's going to be something that happens that'll be a consequence or a complication, but you'll still get a success. So like if in Conan it's stuff like straining your muscles to be able to pull yourself up when you thought you were going to fall or something like that. In this, I'm going to allow that as well too. So if you want to get a success on this, I'll allow you to get a success at cost.
So I will snatch it, almost lose it coming into the bay, and snatch it back at the last second.
Well, so the bay, remember the bay is actually closed. It's you're gonna have to go up to the docking clamp because if the thing's without power, you're not gonna be able to open up the bay, and without being able to communicate with the vessel to send over a transmission code to get it open. What the expectation is, you guys are gonna have to fly up beside this thing, sort of parallel along with its roll. Get up to a docking clamp and then manually open the thing.
Okay, so I nearly hit the berth and had to snatch it back at the last second.
Yeah.
So what's my cost?
Okay, so I think that let me see. The consequence is going to be.
Am I stressed out?
Yeah. Why don't we'll give you 1 point of stress from that. You're kind of like, geez, go. So tick off 1 point of stress, and yeah. So you thought you were going to be able to, you got this. The film version is we see sort of like sparks fly as you're going along the docking, the side of the thing. What do T'Pral and Hanor say, if anything?
Lieutenant Commander, are you in good condition to continue?
Yes, I am. Just a little bit of excitement there that I could have lived without, but all in control now.
Okay, so you have to sort of like back up and reposition to get into this. But so you sort of come out to resync up with the rotating, ship. We can see the Oberth is sort of like drifting over on its axis, and you've got the vessel or the shuttle, and you're trying to sort of match up with it as well and position it in the perfect spot to slide up alongside that docking clamp. But then you notice something.
Oh.
The docking bay at the back of the vessel opens up as if inviting. The hangar bay seems empty, so there's plenty of room to go in, and it seems undamaged from what you can see.
That's spooky.
That's very spooky.
What would you like to do? That's going to cost you nothing to land. You can just a shuttle bay landing there. You can choose to make the roll. It's a 0 difficulties to try and get some momentum going here. But yeah, what do you think?
I think we better get in here, but it's rather creepy. And I'll try and
Agreed.
bring her in with some panache.
Okay. So by panache, do you mean you want to make a roll?
Yep.
Nice. Here we go. Nice. Okay. So let's do this, guys. The way to track in Conan in previous times, I've kind of tracked it on the what do you call it on the screen, but that becomes a little cumbersome, especially when you're switching between screens. Why don't I do this? Who wants to be the momentum tracker?
I'll just put it in chat every time.
Yes, please. Yep, that's perfect. And then as it's spent, you guys could just tell Arlen what's being spent. That way we'll always see what the momentum is. All right. So you guys, you easily you recover from the last. You've already matched the rotation of this. So we see the blue pulse of the engines as it goes in and lands. The shuttle doors close, and a quick scan at the kind of the sensor panel tells you that it has also repressurized. There is a completely breathable atmosphere outside.
Well, that's a better bit of flying there. Phew.
Nice. Okay. Now,
Yes,
one of the
very
things
nice.
that happens in this game, guys, is when we transition between scenes, we drop 1 point from the momentum pool. So unfortunately, that one momentum is now down to 0. But it's good to know that we generated some in there. So we're in now scene 2. Now in pre-made adventures, obviously that's a clear delineation. If you're playing this regularly, what I would do is just like when there's a logical transition between one thing and the next, that's when I would make that transition and dump the momentum.
Before we go, is there a way to recover stress?
Recover. We're not going to worry about that for now.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, stress is stress is normally recovered at the end of a scene. No, you're right. That's that's worth bringing up. So you know what? Now that you've landed successfully like that, Commander Zhang, then you actually recover that point of stress.
Confidence back.
So there you go. You knew you had it.
Oh, that's even better. I was going to ask if I could use the momentum to try to heal or something, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, you can absolutely. Yeah. So that's what you get your stress back at the end. It's only when you suffer an injury when there's potential carryover. So what we see now is our scene picks up in the kind of the empty and cavernous shuttle bay of the Oberth class. Now, in contrast to the kind of sprawling hangar bay that we saw on the Magellan, this is a much smaller area. It's a little more, there's a little more creative use of space in here, but there's also the ambient red light that's flashing in here too. There are no Starfleet personnel in here though. So what are you guys going to do? We pick up with you guys in the vessel. You are ready to go. If someone does a quick check, the subspace interference is still active.
Yeah, I think I'm going to regularly check my comm badge to make sure that we're still out of communication.
Yeah.
Should we look into trying to eliminate the subspace problem? What do you think?
Seems like the first thing to do is find some Starfleet personnel and determine what happens.
If anyone's on the ship, sure.
Yeah, head towards the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get the engines restarted.
So the door to the shuttle opens, and our 3 brave Starfleet members step out into there. What you hear as you step out?
We feel the need to stick together, I guess, is a question I have for the crew.
Sure.
Or should I head to engineering and you guys head to the bridge?
I think we should stick together for now, especially if this is a smaller ship. It's probably easier to move between the stations than it might be on our big ship.
Okay.
I think it's very Starfleet to wander off in opposite directions.
Well, I was going to say, depending on
what I was kind of thinking.
How naval we want to be, it seems like it's Lieutenant Commander Zhang's choice because she's the ranking officer on this mission.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think Lieutenant, I think go check on the engines, see if you can warm them up. We could do with some power on here.
Sure. I'll head to engineering.
Okay.
Now continue, Kev. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So you guys, as you step out, a couple things that you're going to notice. The subspace interference, again, we know about that trait. There is also emergency lighting. So I mentioned that there's that dark kind of like red glowing in here, pulsing in the in the background. What that does is it limits your field of vision up to medium range. Jeff, this will be very familiar, actually, and James, very familiar for you guys. This is just like in Star Wars where there's abstracted ranges. There's adjacent, there's short, medium, long, and extreme. This will restrict you because of the lighting. You cannot see anything at medium range or there's a difficulty increase in range attacks or in identifying things at range by one more. So that is a trait as well. Now, as you step out, though, you hear the beep, beep, beep of an active console waiting for a command. It echoes through the shuttle bay. Alcibiades shuttles 1 and 2 stand empty and dark. The doors to the control room are stuck half open, as if the ship's power gave out just as someone walked through them. The light of the console inside the control room reflects in the window overlooking the bay, but there's no one inside. Whoever opened the shuttle bay's outer doors is not there. So there is a door that that would lead out of here as well too, and so Lieutenant Dell, you make your way over to the door. And you're kind of like, all right, and it just doesn't open. Like you're used to them walking up and then the door opens at your command. So you go over to the well, what do you do? You tell me. I'm walking your characters through your adventure. So the door doesn't open on command. What you can see in here, guys, is there is sort of there's like a gang, kind of a stairwell or whatever that leads up to the control room, and the control room looks down into here, and you can see that door is open, and that beeping beep beep from the console is coming from that control room.
So I'm going to follow the chain of command and just be kind of a pace or two behind the lieutenant commander. Still checking the comm badge pretty regularly, and I assume I've got my scanner out, scanning around, trying to see if I can see anything on it.
Sure. So what you can tell from taking your tricorder out is that the tricorder really, it's effectively something you need to be adjacent to something for it to be properly working.
Okay.
Like you're able to walk up and then, yeah. Yeah, you're wearing red, exactly. James says, I'm sure Star Trek is all about doing unwise things, unwise, overconfident things like splitting up, but damn it, I'm wearing red. Nice. So, what are you guys going to do?
Well, so we can get out of the shuttle bay, but we can't get through the next door, basally?
No, you can't even get out of the shuttle bay. Like the door that leads out of the shuttle bay, it seems to be...
That's what I was trying to...
Yeah, like there still appears to be, however those shuttle doors opened, right now you don't know what the hell happened. They opened, they closed. They should not have done that. Likely it would have been someone at the control panel who did that. But looking up at the control room, it's beeping as if it's waiting for a command. There's light that's kind of flashing there, but the big wide open window from which the control panel looks down into the shuttle bay, there's no one in there.
So the door that is blocking us is half open?
No, the door to the control room
that we can see
is and then the door leading out. Sorry, it's to be honest, I had to reread this scene like 3 times before it made sense to me. Because I'm like, what?
Okay, so the command.
So we have to go to the console to move on.
Yeah.
Well, you could.
Or
so what
try
you
to open the door.
Sure. Let's talk about what. So the one of the things with these like narrative heavy games is you guys can feel free to try and like interrogate the scene as well too, right? Like part of it is establishing the fiction by you guys interacting with it. So for you, Jeff, you could say like, well, hold on, can I, like, is there power going to the door? Is there, is there a way of manually overriding this or something like that? and then we'll
Right.
talk about how you might do that. And then there's also the control room. The control room, there's a prompt that's waiting there. There's a command that's been given that's beeping and waiting to be triggered. And that's unusual. And that's the door that sort of slid halfway closed, as if someone just walked through it, and then the ship lost power.
Why don't you guys go check out? I don't want to break the chain of command, but I'll look at the door and see if I can get it open. Why don't you guys see what's going on in the command room?
One bits of advice that they give in the game too is that, not to worry too much. You guys can all figure out in the fiction how the chain of command is going to work out, but player wise, like, you guys should all be discussing stuff equally and then kind of making the decision.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Star Trek's very flat command.
It is,
Okay.
If worse come, if there's drama to be found in breaking the chain of command, we'll explore that. But otherwise, just feel free to, talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Right. So I guess I'll go up and see if I can see through that window. Or is
Sure.
it
I'll
up
see if I
above
can
us,
get
or-
this door open.
Okay. So let's go up to the, and to Prowl is following behind Zhang. So Zhang, you make your way up there, and looking through the, so you're able to sort of push your way through the half-open doors. You're not a huge woman, and actually neither is Prowl for that matter too. So you guys are able to push your way through, and you can see that the command console, that auxiliary controls are locked out, and they've been rerouted to main engineering. The person who operated the shuttle bay did not do it from here. So you're looking at that, and what you can see is that the way things have been set up is that the controls for this thing has been completely rerouted to main engineering.
So can I look at those controls? Is there a way of opening communications to the engine room?
What I want to ask you to do, let's see here. I think that sounds like a reasoning and I think engineering.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So why don't you give me a reasoning and engineering check there? Let's see here. A difficulty of this will be 0, and we're just going to see what you can spend on momentum here. So again, you can get threat to try and, or give me threat to try and get extra dice to get that momentum pool going. Prowl could try and help with that as well, if she wants to aid.
Yeah, I would like
Yes,
to
can you help?
aid. Reason and engineering?
Reason and engineering with one
Just
dice,
one
please.
dice.
Yeah.
All right. No successes from me.
Okay. So you're currently sitting at 2 dice with no help from with no help from Prowl. And with every point of momentum, that's 1 point of one bit of information you could get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I suggest, why don't I take some threat here to try and get this thing going?
Okay. How many extra dice do you want? You get up to 3.
Should I go for 2?
Do it.
Sure.
Oh yeah. You're boldly going.
Yeah, boldly go.
So that's 4.
Yep. There we go. Nice.
Oh.
Hot damn. All right, so that's a total of 5. So let's see here. So what you can ask a single relevant question per point of momentum spent. So, one thing that's I mentioned before, I can't remember if it was live or after we started playing or before we started, but Star Trek is really very much about mysteries. It's a key part of the the drama that comes from it. You learn stuff through each sequence or each act of each episode, and then it culminates in when they learn everything, they get everything together, and then responding to that stuff. The reason that's worth remembering is because in mysteries and RPGs, it requires a different approach often, a lot more of trying to figuring out what the hell's going on, so then you can make a decision as to what to do. And that's one way of thinking how to interact with Star Trek adventures as well, is that this is your way of sort of getting the groundwork. It's not a matter of finding an NPC in a Pathfinder adventure path and being like, hey, blah, here's the adventure dump or info dump. It's a more player driven thing with you taking advantage of your skills and building momentum and whatnot. So, so what do you think is your first question? And whatever you choose not to get as a question as well, remember you can choose to dump into the what do you call it? Into momentum.
Yeah. So my suggestion is that we should probably save one momentum to try to force open the door, assuming that that's what we're going to do next, or to try to reroute the command structure on the console, right? However, we're going to try to get open the door, but that leaves 2 for questions.
Yeah, well, why don't we try the rerouting the power first and then ask the questions? Then we'll know what's left.
Yeah, that's good. Or
Okay.
that leaves more for questions, doesn't it? That
Yep.
doesn't leave 2. That leaves 4 for questions.
Yep, so I'll try and reroute the power, get the control back from engineering.
Okay. So I think that would then be, I think it's control and engineering then.
Yeah, so I think
Do you want to call
Lieutenant Dell, can you help?
Absolutely.
Okay. So one person can help if you want as well too. If they want to roll or aid, roll a d6 or d6. Roll 1d20 against their or a dice.
And we're trying to reroute the power, so my power system focus would help.
Absolutely, you should take the lead here.
Yeah.
Okay. So now before you roll, guys, I am going to spend some threat because something triggers, a complication triggers. So you get in there, Lieutenant Dell, and you're like, all right. And you start, tapping on the screen. But as you start, touching the console, the power sputters and the display dims. And in this era, Arlen, everything is displayed on a glass screen. It's like a smartphone. Before the console goes completely dark, though, the following message appears in white lettering. Meet me in stellar cartography.
Ooh.
Now, you're still sitting on 5 points of momentum. Is there any? You can still ask questions if you want to, or you can bank that.
Do we have like on our tricorder like a map of the ship?
You probably have. Yeah, there's probably you're probably able to call up the specs of it. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably just standard stuff that you would have.
Okay.
I'm trying to decide if it's something you would need to access the computer for it or not.
Well, we would know like the factory specifications, but not any modifications.
I'm going to say one. You know what? It's going to cost you 1 momentum.
Okay.
Just a big, yeah.
Okay. Well, then I think I'm going to spend a momentum to get the ship specifications and layout and all that sort of stuff on my tricorder.
Yeah, and that's just a flat. Like that's just it's partly a flashback, and it's partly you're scanning this thing to try and access and get just the bare layouts of where things are. Any other questions, guys? Or what do you want to do?
I don't have any questions at the moment.
So the screen's now gone blank.
Yes.
So we didn't succeed, basically.
Is the door leading into the rest of the ship open, or is it still closed?
Still closed.
Okay. And we don't have a way to communicate with whoever this is to open it up for us.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you could try on the console, but it does seem that it's gone dark.
And I guess we need to go check at the door and see if we can manhandle it properly.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is something that's instructed by the by the adventure. I'm spending 2 more threat to represent another complication. Now what I think I'm going to do, well, you guys can tell me at the end of the adventure. We can talk about whether this kind of overt me going in and creating an complication with it is better, or just me behind the scenes spending my threat to do this and just having it part of the narrative is better. My preference is the latter, because I feel it does potentially create more of an adversarial, like, well, you're trying to do this, here's my way of stopping you from doing that.
Yeah, I think it's you just keep your private pool and
okay. Then so what you guys do is you go over there and you go over to the little pad there, Dell, and there's no power to the kind of like console to the left of the door. So what do you guys want to do?
There's no power at all. Can we try and force it?
Yeah. What you need is you need something that you could get as a lever to fit between the the two doors, and then it'll require a fitness and security task with a difficulty of 3.
Ooh.
Alternatively, you could use a phaser to cut into the bulkhead and then hotwire the circuitry. Now, one thing I want to point out here, those are some options that are listed, but one of the fun things about this game is that if you can come up with some cool, it's to be honest, it reminds me of like superhero role-playing games where your characters are capable, just because of the like almost magical level of technology, you're capable of trying so many crazy things. If you come up with some kind of solution that fits the setting, we can just figure out what the difficulty is for that. So those are 2 examples, but if you've got another idea in mind, just,
Well, one of my ideas, I have this talent, doctor's orders, that when I attempt a task to coordinate others, I can use my medicine discipline instead of command. So if we might have me start coordinating Zhang and Dell, whatever we want to do, I might be able to generate up some momentum to add successes.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to open the door in the shuttle bay. Maybe we could use our shuttle's weapons to blast the door or cut through it.
I mean, that might firing, ship grade weaponry inside the confines of a shuttle bay is
Exciting.
exciting. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to get that door down.
But
I mean, like not to, so mechanically, what that will be I think I'd set it as, well, first off, rather than me talking it through, what do you think you're going to do? Those are the challenges that might be with it. What do you think your character would do to compensate for that? Firing a ship's, scale phaser, a naval phaser within here is going to do some pretty big damage. Hold on, I don't even know. Let me see if the shuttlecraft has weaponry.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
Oh, it doesn't. No.
Oh, well then.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, seems to Prel that the idea of using a personal phaser to try to cut a way into the wiring is better than trying to just brute force the door open. So how about can I roll control and medicine to direct Lieutenant Dell to use his phaser to open up the?
Let me see here. I want to see what coordinate does.
Okay.
Because the thing is, I can see it like what I want to understand is the limits of that ability.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
that makes perfect sense. What I'm thinking is like I said, mechanically, it seems like that's a good way to generate up some momentum at the start of the scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
totally.
No,
and that's and just while I'm looking this up too, Jeff, just to reiterate, like what I was thinking of, if the vessel had phasers on it, your character could have said, well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to refocus the I'm going to change the phaser focusing
length or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So we're totally in the same wavelength there.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I was thinking. Is like very Star Trek-y. Like I can change the amplitude of the phasers to
totally
for a short range burst, and we could just basically disintegrate the door.
Give me 1 sec here. Just because I really do like that suggestion, Arlen, and I want you to be able to take advantage of the teamwork stuff. I just want to see what coordinating actually does.
No worries. We are all new to this system.
Yeah, that's why I thought it would be fun to play through this. We did this with the Star Wars thing, and honestly, it's what made me fall in love with Star Wars, was playing through the Edge of the Empire introductory stuff. Okay, so you know what I think it would be? I think Ron, I think I'm overthinking this. I think what I'll allow you to do is it's just like an aid another thing. Just you get a more favorable discipline than command. So if you're weak in command and you're better in medicine, you just get a better discipline. And
So
then
just roll 1.
Yeah, and also just to you guys may be already doing this, but kind of think about what if there are any focuses that would apply here as well.
Well,
Okay,
one question. Is this... What's wrong with the door? Is it just locked, or is it broken, or is it... Because I'm able to jury rig things.
Yeah, you actually don't know yet.
Right. Well, we're pretty sure it doesn't seem to have power, right?
Yep.
So, can we... Could we run power from the shuttle to the lock on the door and run that up using my jury rig skill?
Yeah.
Cool.
I like that.
So I'll go grab some cables.
Yeah.
Let's jumpstart this bad boy.
That's awesome. So why don't you tell us what your jury rig ability does?
Whenever you attempt an engineering task to perform repairs, you reduce the difficulty by 2. If you do this, however, the repairs are only temporary and will last a single scene, plus 1 per momentum.
Nice.
So like the doors close behind us as soon as we walk through?
Yeah, we'll be locked on away from our shuttle.
Oh,
What could go
boy.
wrong?
Perfect.
I love it. Okay, so then what I'll say is that so Zhang's going to be taking the lead on this. It sounds like T'Prel is going to assist. And I think because you guys, I can foresee there's enough room for you guys to be working together on this. Del, you'll be able to help as well. So anytime you guys are aiding, you're going to roll 1d20. But remember that your focus does apply and your discipline would apply as well. So I think with you, how are you helping, Del? Are you kind of hands-on with this, or are you trying to I
think I'll be running all the ship stuff. So I'll be on the ship. I'll be trying to send the power through the cable.
Okay. So that sounds like control and engineering to me.
Yep.
And you've also got your small craft focus, right?
Yeah, and I also have power systems, so this is kind of right up my alley. Yeah.
Yep. So you go ahead and make roll your 1d6 or 1d6 your 1 dice for that. T'Prel, you can go ahead and use your command stuff as well.
Yep.
For 1 dice. Let's see how much momentum is
So I
generated.
do task roll and just set the dice to 1.
Yep.
Okay. Nice.
Nice.
Can we use momentum on the aid, or is it just for the main rolls?
Just for the main task, yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Okay. So you've already got 2 momentum. You're now sitting on a max of 6 momentum here. Well, actually, doesn't go to the pool. It only goes to this task.
Yeah.
So
4 momentum, 2 successes.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm doing this right. I'm suddenly having a thought that I'm doing this wrong. I can't remember if it adds to the dice you roll. No, it adds the successes because it doesn't affect your cap. Although T'Prel does need to succeed. So T'Prel, you have 4 momentum you can draw on if you want to.
Zhang needs to succeed. T'Prel.
Oh, Zhang, so forgive me.
Yep.
Yeah, Zhang. So you now have. I need you to make a difficulty 1 control and engineering check, but you do have 4 momentum you could draw on. So you could actually, throw 3 more dice into that to the max of 5.
Now, probably doesn't apply, but since it's running from the shuttlecraft, does my focus from shuttlecraft help that I can modulate the power properly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we'll focus that. And what do you think, guys? Another 2?
Yeah, I think we should put as much in so that we can, because one of the momentum spends for your jury rig is to keep the doors open. So it seems like that would be good. We should put some in so we can generate up some momentum so that we can keep the doors open for longer than just the 1 scene.
Yeah.
Right, like get them kind of open.
Yeah, long term.
I guess to be fair, we'll just put something in the doorway, right? Just pull a crate or something and dump it there.
Yeah.
We'll do it the old-fashioned way.
Figure out something to hold it open for a little longer at least.
Okay, so how many shall I use? 2 or 3 momentum?
Just go with 2.
Yeah.
2. Yep.
Okay.
Let's go.
Nice. So 1, 2. So you got 4 successes in total, which means you generated 3 momentum in total. So you still have 3 momentum to work with. Do you wish to extend this for more than 1 scene for these repairs?
5 momentum because we had 2 left over.
Can't for the results of the success. You can't dip back into the momentum pool.
Okay.
The momentum that's generated from the dice roll, it has restrictions on what it can be spent on. The momentum pool is what you draw in before you make your dice rolls.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're sitting. So you actually only have there's 2 momentum in the momentum pool right now. So, but three for you to play with there. Zhang, what do you want to do?
Shall we use 2 to keep it open for 2 scenes? A chance to get in and then potentially get back out again.
Sure.
Sounds great.
Okay, so I'll write down that it lasts for 2 scenes. That means 1 goes back into the momentum pool. Okay. So you guys, we can see you guys running the cable out. There's this, transition scene, or not transition, this montage of you guys pulling stuff out. We've got T'Prel, who's sort of supervising this stuff, walking back and forth. T'Prel is seeming to be a bit of a bossy,
T'Prel is a no nonsense, but also respects the chain of command. Doesn't want to step on Zhang's toes, but it has kind of found her place supervising. Yeah.
I love the idea of her being like, prefacing each kind of bossy thing with, with full respect, Lieutenant Commander, and then saying what, and like she's genuinely not trying to be offensive. She's genuinely trying to be helpful, but just with the Vulcan tact of being
exactly.
With respect, Lieutenant Commander, did you not intend to hook that up to there? Yes, thank you, T'Prel. Okay. And Del, so you get the power up, and we see a little bit of like lights pulsing along that cable. The door it then kind of and slides open, revealing something shocking. Scorch marks cover the corridor walls. Damaged power couplings spark beneath broken and burned out panels. On the deck are the dead bodies of 7 Starfleet crew members.
Oh, God.
Ooh.
So you kind of...
That is very...
And we can I go investigate them to see if there are any signs of life or how they died?
Absolutely. So you get over there, you pull your medical tricorder out. Would you kind of give me... It's a difficulty 0, insight plus medicine. And
Insight
you can
plus medicine?
Yep. And
I'm going to use one of our momentum, if that's all right.
Yep.
Yeah, do it.
Do you have any, and then remember if you've got any focus that would apply.
Oh, yes. Let me see if I rolled well enough for the focus to apply. No.
Okay. So I think what we'll do, just so we're constantly reminding ourselves, and for the folks who may be watching this to see what the game's like, we'll talk through our focuses, our foci, like as you guys are choosing to.
So I have emergency medicine, so that seems like that would apply, but I didn't roll well enough for any of those to trigger.
Sure. The other thing too, I think just thinking through how we're thinking about her as well. I think talking about the foci and talking about the values is an interesting way of us meeting these characters too, right? Like seeing what they're good at, seeing what they're, how they interact with each other. Nice. Okay, so you get 3 successes. You get 3 questions you can ask.
So the first thing I want to know is, to the best of my knowledge, how did these Starfleet characters die?
The wounds. So this is actually free. So the first one is free. The wounds are consistent with the type of injuries caused by disruptor weapons. And because you're going to spend 1 point of momentum, I'll give you 1 extra bit of info about that. The signature on the disruptors is Romulan. You got 2 more points if you want to spend.
2 more. Guys, do you think there's anything else we need to ask, or should I put them in the pool?
I mean, that tells us a lot, right? Without any more questions.
Yeah.
But
so when is a good suggestion? About how long ago did this happen?
So from the scans that you're doing this is less than a week ago. More than a day, but less than a week.
Less than a week. Are any of these
just some interesting?
Yeah. So I'd also like to know, can I, for free, tell if there are any officers among them?
You can tell there's no command crew among them.
No command crew among them. Okay. But yes, a how would be a good, to the best of my knowledge, how did this attack go down?
So how the positions of the bodies, like you're kind of standing back and doing that sort of like, Sherlock type thing of looking up and down, studying the scene of where the bodies have fallen. And from the way that they're facing and from the placement of the disruptor burns, it appears that these things may have been fighting a fighting withdrawal, making their way back to the shuttle bay. And you're scanning down and looking up, and you see the scorch marks on the walls, and you see similar markings at the far end of the corridor. There are things where it would be phaser hits.
So the Starfleet characters with phasers were doing the fighting withdrawal.
Interestingly, no phasers.
No phasers, but the Starfleet characters are the ones that were fighting withdrawal, trying to get to the shuttle
That's
bay.
right. Yeah, forgive me, Arlen. So,
Yep.
yeah, in the Star Trek universe, disruptors are typically used by like adversary races.
Okay.
So, like the Klingons, the Romulans, the Ferengi, I think use disruptors as well. It's the Federation is the one that uses phasers. So,
Because you can set them to stun.
yeah,
Yeah.
disruptors you can set to painful disintegration or more painful disintegration. So,
All right. Well, that's all of our questions. Lieutenant Commander, I turn over the initiative to you.
So they were all gunned down unarmed then.
As far as we can tell, because there are no phaser. Did you say there's no phasers on the bodies, or there are no phaser hits on the walls?
why don't we do this, guys? Why don't let's see here, Lieutenant Commander Zhang, why don't you give me a reasoning and command roll, please?
Ooh, that's not good.
The
Oh, no.
Ooh,
Too many dice.
Oh,
Too many dice. Yeah.
nice. Oh shoot. Oh, too many
And
dice.
the first
Oh well,
one's not good.
that's using all of our momentum, so that's okay.
Okay. And there's a complication. Okay. So let me think here about the. So here's the thing you do get out of that, though. So you're looking down at these things. What I was getting you to roll for is to see about your knowledge of small unit tactics. And
I was gonna say nope, we can't go back. But I should have helped with my defensive tactics focus, because that would have been useful.
yeah. Okay. So I should have been more clear. Why don't you give us a command? Reasoning command to help check, and you can use your focus on that.
All right, using focus, one success.
Non-success. Okay, two.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a little bit of information. And then there's other stuff you could get. You got 2 momentum that you could spend, and remember, you can dump that back in too. The reason I want to mention this is because if you find yourself, like recognizing this is a mystery-based game, if you find yourself hitting up against the wall on something, you can just try a different approach, right? And try and be like, okay, well, what can I learn from X? Even though we're playing through a set adventure, one of the neat things about the game seems to be that it's pretty open. It's not like Call of Cthulhu where like, oh, I failed my library use roll, so I guess I'm not going to gain this information this way. You can really try different ways of doing that, of sort of accessing ultimately the same information. So I think what we see maybe in game, guys, is there's a bit of a discussion between Zhang and T'Prel about the tactics in here. So what does that kind of sound like to Del? Because Del's the one who's overhearing this as he's walking over from the shuttle.
Well, I think Zhang is I presume starting to point out, and T'Prel is focused specifically on the presence of phaser hits on the walls versus phasers that are left on the bodies.
Sure. So we see T'Pral kind of walking back and forth and saying, Lieutenant Commander, it appears that they were fighting a standard formation fighting withdrawal in a boarding action. You can see from the attempts at covering fire, though unsuccessful. And Zhang, you kind of think, but where are the phasers then? And T'Pral, your insight is, well, standard procedure would be to collect in a boarding action, denying the weapons resources, or denying adversaries resources, including their phasers, would be standard procedure, both for Romulans and any adversary. If the phasers are likely in the victors of this encounter.
That's what I would assume, yes.
Yeah, so that's 1 point. You still have 1 more point of momentum if you want to use it, or you can dump it in the pool.
What do you think?
I'd like to ask sort of a Star Trek question. What happens to a body that gets hit by a disruptor?
Depends on how powerful, depends on where.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a little inconsistent.
But it's not like a disintegrator like in Star Wars where the body just turns into ash or something?
It can be. It can be if it's on high power. Like in the fiction, you can set different levels. Like you can set, stun, heavy stun, and whatnot with your phasers, and then it's a little loose within the fiction as to what the specific result is.
Unnamed characters go that way. Named characters don't. Okay.
Yeah, you can assume that this is this is sort of like. I mean, I guess like to justify the fiction too, like you're not going to go around with your disruptor in the inside of a spaceship firing at the most powerful rates because you may potentially blast through a hull. Mm-hmm. You're going to try and keep it at a level that's going to kill the person, but not, not accidentally, vaporize a bulkhead because you missed, right?
So I would like to ask if the majority or if any of these dead bodies are security personnel.
There are a couple, yeah.
A couple, but not all?
Or at least, well, what you can tell is that there's some people who are dressed in, of the 7, there's probably like maybe 2 or 3 that are in yellow. So whether that makes them security or not? Security
maybe, but not a dedicated security team, definitely.
Not a dedicated security team, no.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, you know what? So I'm going to make you spend that last point of momentum to learn the answer to that.
Okay.
So T'Pral, you make your way to the far end of the corridor, and you're looking up and down the corridor, and you look at the blasts on the wall, and these are not consistent with a Type 3 phaser. These are consistent with the Type 1 phasers, like what you guys have.
Yeah.
So the yield of these hits against the wall would suggest that it's not the big rifle things that the security often use, or even the Type 2 phasers, the bigger.
So these were just personal defense weapons.
Yeah, Lieutenant Commander, if I may, it appears that a mixed group of Starfleet personnel was using Type 1 phasers to try to fight a fighting retreat to the shuttle bay. As far as I can tell, this is not a dedicated security team, nor were they obviously successful in their fighting withdrawal.
Okay, so now we have, I suggest, 3 choices, assuming we're going ahead. We could go to engineering and try and get the power back on. We could go to the bridge and see what's there, or we could go to this location we were told to go to.
Stellar cartography.
Stellar cartography, yeah. Which I'm guessing is off the bridge.
Stellar cartography is it's basically like star mapping. And it's probably going to be near the sciences.
Okay.
The Oberth is, and also like the Oberth was built as a science vessel, so it's probably a couple different. It's fairly a comprehensive, 1 or 2 decks that would have the stellar cartography or the sciences areas. Arlo, go ahead.
If I may, I have another possible course of action, which is to head to the medical area, because either the attackers, who we can presume are not Starfleet forces, or the Starfleet forces, whoever was injured in this attack, any survivors would have likely traveled to the medical bay to recover their injuries, and that might be another course of action.
I'm sorry to say, but I don't think the Romulans will leave survivors.
Well, but the Romulans might have made use of Starfleet medical technology. Would they?
True, maybe.
I guess that's more of a lore question than a.
Well, the worrying thing suggests that where's the Romulan ship?
That is.
And
that
can
is
we
good.
see it?
Yeah.
So what for those who are unfamiliar with Star Trek, what do you call it? Star Trek canon. What is the one thing that all Romulan ships seem to have?
Cloaking devices.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we're in a situation where our scanners are weakened to ineffective.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you can't contact the outside.
And we can't contact the outside.
Another thing to consider is you did do a comprehensive visual scan of the Oberth before you came on. There was no exterior damage.
Right.
Mm.
So the Alcibiades was not involved in any kind of dogfight or something like that. Remember, it was out here testing some kind of experimental warp drive.
Mm.
Could a boarding party be transported from one ship to another?
I don't think that the transporters work while the ship is cloaked. I'll have to double check on that on canon because I can't remember offhand. But
that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, once again, Lieutenant Commander, I leave it in your capable hands to determine our course of action.
My vote would be to go to engineering and try and take back control of the ship. It seems that everywhere we've gone here, we're being thwarted. But rather than listening to whoever, I mean, unless we believe, I mean, the question is, do we believe that the communique came from a Starfleet personnel who is trapped on the ship and fighting back, or do we believe that the communique could have come from the Romulans and it's a trap? Because I think that would decide that decision.
Indeed. Now, if it's a trap, you'd think they could just be more direct, right?
Yes, but also if the current Starfleet forces are confined to one area of the ship, putting us in there would just have us be outflanked or in a position to be attacked as well, right? Even if it's from Starfleet officers, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best tactical decision to group up yet, especially while we have two operating forces instead of one.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but we're also potentially rescuing the...
We're also potentially rescuing whoever is left on the ship. So that's, yes, meeting up at some point is good. What I'm suggesting is that defensively, we in some ways, assuming that there are active enemy forces on this ship, in some ways we currently have the initiative, assuming that because we now have two parties that can operate instead of one.
Right.
Let me ask you this, guys. I'll throw another thing. There's another principle that you can use to approach mysteries, and that's the Latin principle of cui bono, which translates to who profits.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the ways to approach a mystery is to think, well, who benefits from the steps or the actions that were taken? Cui bono, you guys coming on the ship, because someone opened the shuttle door and let you in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that would lead us to believe that it's a Starfleet personnel who opened the shuttle bay, because the Romulans wouldn't want more Starfleet on board.
Well, although the Romulans, assuming that their communication systems are damaged by the situation as well, may realize that we won't be able, that letting us come on board is a good way to make sure that we can't escape.
It's funny, though. They seem to have some control of the ship, but aren't, didn't let us out of the hangar bay.
Well, and one thing to consider is that we could see from the console that the command and the power structure to open the doors came from engineering. So instead of going to stellar cartography, presumably someone was in engineering when we came on board the ship.
Well, unless that's just a they're rerouting everything to keep the Romulans from taking control of the ship.
Well, that's true too.
Like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. But hesitation is as bad as inaction. So, Lieutenant Commander Zhang, let's make a move.
Let's
Where
try
are
and
we
get
going?
power back.
Excellent.
Head to engineering.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I concur.
Okay, give me one sec here, guys. That'll be the end of the scene, so I don't think there's anything in the
None in
momentum
the pool right now.
No. Okay. So then you guys are let me make sure I loaded the thing I need for this. All right.
Oh, heavens for that. There's only a token Romulan on this ship.
Okay, so you guys leave here. We're start of the new scene, and you start making your way through. So the corridors are dimly lit from the glow of the red emergency lighting. Ahead of you, as you're making your way through here, you find 3 more dead Starfleet officers.
Ugh.
You recognize them from the mission briefing. This is Captain Kelly, his first officer, Commander Dandrick, and the Chief of Security, Lieutenant Talau. As you examine the bodies, a disruptor blast scorches the wall beside you. You look up and see 4 Romulans at the other end of the corridor. So give me a sec here, guys. To set this up. First up, boom. So you can assume, guys, that the doors are open in this extended corridor here, and I'll place you guys in here. Give me a sec. Oh, there we go. It was relatively easy to create the tokens that were needed here. 1 from the PDF. 2. And, oh, you know what? I should have made the tokens from, to be linked to your characters. Give me a sec here. Oh shit! I didn't load the token for Jang. So sorry. I'll do that between now and next session because I do have one that'll be kind of cool. Here we go. You're hiding behind a full desk, I guess.
Good defensive positioning, Lieutenant Commander.
I just carry my desk with me.
Even on away missions, I can't escape my desk job.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm setting it up. Now let me see if I can quickly do this here. I'm going to set up the tokens to correspond to your to your stress, and I will replace Zhang's token between now and next time. Oop, wrong thing. Where are we here? Dell. Okay. Edit. All right. Save changes. Cool. Okay. Now, let's do. Right. That is Dell. Save changes. Now, is that not representing the? Yeah, okay. Sorry, I think I'm having a issue here. So I want to try something different here. Let's see here. Does this work properly? Nice. Okay, cool. So, guys, tell me if you see a blue bar above Dell's name there.
I see. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let me just quickly create these for you guys. So this is clearly the thrilling part of the adventure where we create tokens. But once it is done, once it's done, we won't have to do it again. Zhang, get her stress. So what you can do, guys, is you can enter your. If you take stress, you can just enter it directly onto your token, rather than.
And the way it works is like in Conan, where you have a stress tracker, and then once you fill up stress, you start taking injuries.
Yeah, or if you take 5 points of
or if you
damage,
take a big hit, yeah,
you take
and the injuries are the permanent complications.
You also drop down pretty, like you can't do anything when you take an injuries are a lot more serious in this than they are in Conan.
Okay, well, yeah, no fighting through a sword hit in this.
No. It is less of the yeah. Okay. There we go. And there we go. That. Can everyone see Lieutenant Dell's name tag as well?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, great. So we got everyone placed there. Now. Let's set the for Romalushna. There we go. It's there at the far end here. Yeah, let me make him a little smaller here. There we go. There we go. All right, guys. So things are about to get dangerous. Now, at the way that conflict works here, guys, is you guys, so it goes back and forth basically. Like it's not like Conan where you roll initiative. You guys get to act first, then so one of you guys goes, then I go with a character, then you go with a character, then I go with a character, and we go back and forth until everyone's acted. You can spend momentum to keep the initiative, and that allows you to.
Oh, interesting.
And in fact, that is something that we probably should do, because in the first round of combat, me and my allies may ignore the normal momentum cost to keep the initiative because I am quick to act.
Nice. Each turn, you guys can take a minor action or one task, and then you can also spend momentum to take extra minor actions. And I think on that handout, let's see here. Do I have that? It's not. I'll make another handout for the actions as well, because there are pretty easy handouts that I can prepare too. But basically, it's I think you guys being the veteran RPG players that you are, it's they're pretty, they're things you would expect. Minor actions include things like aiming, which allows you to re-roll 1d20 made this turn, drawing an item, dropping prone, interacting, move, so you can move to anywhere within medium range. And I want to say medium range will divide the map up the way they've got the divides up here. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So that'll be like short range, medium range, long range. And movement allows you to move to anywhere within medium range. You can prepare. I might have that wrong. Maybe short range is the same. Oh, whatever. I'll figure that out between now and the next session. You can prepare, which is you spend some time getting set up for a task, or you can stand. If you're knocked down, you can stand up. Those are all minor actions. And then combat tasks, so your actual action on your turn, you can assist, which is just like helping another. You can attack, you can create an advantage, you can do something that creates a beneficial circumstance or removes a complication. You can direct. This is only available for commanding officers. The character nominates a single other character who may immediately attempt a single task assisted by the commanding character. You may guard. You may pass to not take an action. You can ready something. So that's if X, then Y. You can recover, which gives you a chance to make a fitness plus command test against difficulty 2. And that gives you getting behind cover. It gives you 1 resistance, which reduces, it's basically armor, for each effect rolled on the cover dice. And then regain the ability to use avoid an injury. Avoid an injury is a momentum spend to not take damage. You can sprint as an action, which is moving more than just the medium square. You can do first aid, or you can do something else that you want to come up with. So, with your phasers, now you'll notice that each of your phasers has an ability called charge. And I bet you're wondering what that is. Kev, what does charge do? That's a good question, guys.
I'm going to guess it's not charging like a barbarian.
It does not. If the character performs a prepare minor action before attacking with this weapon, one of the following damage effects may be used. Area, intense, pierce, or vicious. Area covers a wider area. It affects 1 additional target within the close range of the initial target for each effect result rolled on the challenge dice. So the way challenge dice work is you'll roll them, and then you'll have results of either 1, 2, or an effect. An effect counts as a 1 and then also has some effect. Effects are kind of like how you trigger special abilities from attacks and from for weapons, for different weapon qualities. So area allows you, for each effect you roll, you're attacking 1 more target. Piercing, it ignores that amount of resistance so ignores armor, basically. It becomes armor piercing. And the vicious allows you to add, for each effect, it acts as if it's a 2 instead of a 1. X additional damage for each effect rolled. So those are the things. Oh, and intense. Intense increases the chance or the cost of avoiding injury. So it becomes a much more likely to actually injure the thing and take it down. So, and then you choose whether you're making a lethal or a non-lethal attack. That's whether you said it's a phaser or stun. If you make a lethal attack, you give me 1 threat. Okay. So let's get into this, guys. Who is going to go first? Who wants to go first with their action? Now, you guys have not said that you're strolling around with your phasers out. So I'm assuming that you're going to take a minor action to get your phasers out. So what are you guys doing? I imagine your tricorders were probably in your hands as you were, seeing, getting information about the fallen captain and whatever else. Who's going to go first, guys?
Are we assuming that all of this stuff on the map, aside from the doors are open, but the other stuff is there available as cover?
No, it's kind of an open corridor.
Okay.
So
more like this second map.
There is, yeah, and there's probably a bulkhead that you could, you could stand on, or like throw yourself against. Here, let me make this easier. Map and background. There we go.
Yeah.
There you go, guys. How's that?
That was better. Yep.
Like magic.
The wonders of roll 20.
Absolutely. All right. So who is up first? We will say that there's that door in the middle of the hallway, though. We'll say you could potentially take advantage of that. So, and I want to put you all in the same area. Okay. What are you guys doing? There seems some angry Romulans at the end. Who's going to go first?
I think we would follow the lead of the commander.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Zhang, you're up first. What do you want to do?
So my minor action, I guess I've got to draw my phaser.
Okay. It's out.
Now, I can either shoot or I can move, right? One or the other.
That's correct. Well, you could spend momentum, and remember, you can just give me threat to get spend momentum to get an extra minor action. You can keep buying extra minor actions just by giving me threat, or by spending initiative. Or not initiative, a momentum rather.
But we don't have any of that. So
We don't have any momentum right now, but this
It's almost
seems
as if the DM's rubbing it in. What a jerk.
Yeah, I know.
I think I will give you some threat to let me dive to the ground, and then I will shoot an area stun towards these guys.
Okay, so if you're doing an area, that's going to require another minor action as you're charging it. Remember, because it takes a minor action to charge the thing up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got that. More threat for me. Oh.
Okay.
All right, so then, to attack at range, it is control. What is it? Control and security with a difficulty of 2, but because they're beyond medium range, it's a difficulty of 3. So you are currently sitting on 2 dice. Do you want to get any extra dice for, what do you call it? By giving me threat?
You won't have any room for any more threat.
I got a pretty big box here.
Guys, I'm afraid I'm going to spend at least 1 on that.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's worth saying, like, it's a key part of the game too. Like, it's it makes the game work properly. You guys get extra dice, you generate more momentum, and then I've got the resources I need to fuck around on my side.
Well, and especially if we're good at stuff, it just makes sense. Similar to in Conan, I gather that it just makes sense to start buying to generate up your momentum.
Totally, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Okay, so you get your phaser out. You got 3 dice. Go ahead and make your roll. You don't have any foci that would apply, right? Oh, complication! Nice. Love it. Okay, so what I'm... gosh, what am I going to say? So for 1 is unfortunately not good enough. So you fire down the hall and it kind of hits, against the bulkhead. Now the complication. What am I going to do?
I dropped the phaser out of my hand as I fell.
That seems unfair. Let's see here. I'm looking at my DM screen, my lovely DM screen. What am I going to do? I'm going to take more threat for that. So thank you for that. I'll just do that for now. Okay. Then, so you fire, and that basically you've helped them reorient where their shot is. So
just a second. Because we can ignore the momentum cost to keep initiative for the first round of combat because of my ability.
Yep. You can only do it once, though.
Then you only do it once.
And you have to pass initiative to me. So one of you guys can go first.
Seems like it's worth just doing it right now.
Oh, yeah.
The first round anyway.
Yep.
Lieutenant Dell, do you want to take an action or do you want me to?
No, you go ahead.
All right.
It's your cool ability, so...
So I'm going to be quick to act. So I'm going to take a minor action to draw my phaser. I'm going to give you 1 threat to do a minor action to aim.
Okay.
And then I'm going to take a shot.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. So what does aim do again? I have forgotten.
Aim is you can re-roll 1d20.
Okay.
But if you're only rolling 2 dice, though, remember it's a difficulty 3 at this range because of the lighting and because of the range.
So, But if I roll a 1, that's... could I spend a determination here?
You have to justify it with one of your values.
With hesitation is as bad as inaction because I'm stepping up to... Is that good enough or is that not? Not really?
Yeah, I'll allow that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so you're to click off your determination. You've used that. That means you're going to get automatically 1 success. And that'll be a 1, so you've got 2 successes.
So 2 successes, so I need to roll a success on 1d20, and I get to re-roll it because I aimed.
No, you're rolling 2d20.
Right, because it adds. It just adds. It doesn't turn.
No, your pool is always 2 to start.
Yep.
And then what that does is that one of the extra 3 you could have got, you've now got that, but it's treated as if you rolled a 1.
Okay, and I'm rolling control and security for a long-range shot. Look at that.
Nice.
Ooh.
Okay, so you generated, so that's a success, and you got 2 momentum. Now, what you can spend a momentum on, let's first roll your results. Click on the phaser on the challenge dice or damage where it says there. Go ahead and roll that. Nice.
I don't know what all that means, but
that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 damage, and there's a 1 effect. That's what that means.
okay.
So what that means is, first off, so with 5, that's pretty fucking good. That is enough to cause an injury normally, unless they've got resistance.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I have some momentum that I could use on penetration to make sure that I actually cause an injury.
Yes. So penetration costs 1 for each. Ignores 2 points of resistance. Then, what do you want to do?
So
These
it
guys
seems
appear to be wearing. They're not wearing armor.
they're not wearing armor and they're not in cover. So, and do I know if they have like a natural resistance to phasers, or is that not? Okay, so I'm going to spend 1 on extra damage and 1 on penetration to make sure that I'm getting through any of their resistance, and that uses all my momentum.
Okay. So you step forward, and I think where Lieutenant Commander Zhang sort of like dove for cover, you just stepped forward confidently and
Yes.
lined up your shot and fired.
Firing on stun because I didn't give you a threat for kill.
Yep, that's right. Okay, so then okay, so one of them kind of drops down, poof, and is completely unconscious.
Excellent.
There you go. Stunned. Nice. Okay, so now you guys pass to me. I go with somebody. One of the Romulans steps forward, and you know what I'll do too, guys, is between now and the next session, I will try and load the NPCs into here as well too, because in Star Wars it was kind of. I mean, Jeff, you can tell me if this is right or wrong, but it was kind of neat seeing the enemies roll.
Yeah, I think so.
It was made for a different kind of game, and I've got resources to spend to change things if I want to. Okay, so let's hear. We've got control and security. I know what I need to roll. I'm going to spend some threat, and I don't know who we're attacking here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so Lieutenant Commander Zhang, you said you spent 1 to take cover, right?
Yep.
Okay, so then, okay, that's actually a combat task. It looks like that's not a because you fired. That was your.
Specifically, Zhang went prone, so I don't know if that
Oh,
counts
went
as
prone.
cover
Okay, yes,
or
forgive me.
Yeah.
Okay, drop prone. So I'll I'll raise difficulty by 1. Why not? Okay, so then the difficulty for them is a 4 actually against you because of the range, because of the lighting, because of everything. So yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I'll spend another threat. One of them raises his disruptor rifle and misses. Okay, so that was it for one of my guys. Back to you, Lieutenant Dell. What are you doing?
Okay, so I just want to check if this is sort of how this works. So I have this joined thing.
Yes.
So you have a symbiont.
Yep.
Once
you have a slug that was implanted in you that is also sentient.
Right. So like I could say something like, I don't know, a former host was a police officer on my homeworld.
Yep.
And so I could have like a small arms or whatever it would be weapon bonus for this
or something like that. Sure.
So I could have a focus in this kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Let's just say that then.
Yeah.
So he was a police officer on my homeworld.
Okay. Now, do you wish to? You're starting at 2. It's a difficulty 3. Small arms plus, or not small arms. Control and security. Do you want to give me any threat to get an extra dice?
Yes.
How much?
Just 1.
Okay. So you're rolling 3 dice then.
So I roll 3 dice, but then I can collect focus. Yes.
You can also collect. Well, you click on the focus, and that just means that your chance of getting 2 successes is higher. It's now equal to your security discipline. You can also have a minor action. So if you wanted to do like what Arlen did and aim as your action, you can re-roll one of your d20s.
Sure. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Nice. Nice. Okay, so that's a hit. You can choose to
click on the phaser. Oh, I could re-roll one.
You could re-roll one, but you needed those.
Your success is not. Your success chances is only 11 on a d20, so probably not great to re-roll.
No.
Okay. So go ahead and click on your phaser.
Okay, weapon, phaser.
Nice. 5 and 2. So what is the phaser doesn't have? It's hidden and there's charge, but so there's nothing else to trigger with your thing. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. Another one. Now I can spend to avoid injury. And I think I'll do that. No, I won't. I'll say that. So another one of them goes down. Okay, now it's their turn. What they are going to do is I'm going to spend some threat. These guys grab their fallen comrades and they move out of here. And begin to it seems like there's a turnabout thing here where they are doing a fighting withdrawal. They have not fired on you, but they still are within distance to potentially catch up to them. So will our Starfleet characters catch up to the Romulans? Is this battle over? We'll find out in 2 weeks' time. So, all right, let me get out of the game here, guys, and then we'll make with the outro. Where am I going here? Close that down. Get out of there. All right. So for those listening at home, thanks so much for joining us for this first session of Star Trek Adventures. I don't know, what guys, this seems like it was pretty fucking cool. What'd you guys think?
Yeah, no, it's fun.
Yeah, so far I'm liking this system. It is a lot like Conan in a lot of ways. So, and I did enjoy that system. So.
And I think once we get familiar with the challenge with Conan was getting used to the momentum spends and what you can get with that. The more familiar we get with this, and what I'm picturing doing is I'm going to set up basically a battle board, if you will, that's going to have the references for momentum spends and actions on it. So you guys will be able to see on the screen what your options are, and you can kind of make the decisions between rounds.
The thing I like about this game too is something I like about all these games with this design, where you just decide what your character is going to do, and then you try and fit the rules and the abilities to that, instead of looking at your character sheet like, oh, I have history, so if I can't apply history here, I feel like there's nothing I can do very valuable. Whereas in this game, it's like my character tries this, and then we just decide what things line up to it. I always like games like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's I love how light on its feet the system seems to be. In comparison to some other games. So it's pretty fucking cool. This felt very I know, Arlen, you're not a big Star Trek fan, but
I'm here on the strength of the Conan 2D20 system, basically, because I know that it's the same engine and I love that game. So that's why I'm here. So yes, I liked the way that this mechanically worked a lot.
And it's also for me, James, maybe you can speak to this too, but this felt like Star Trek.
Yes, no, absolutely. This is that's just what I heard about this game, that it's very good at getting the feel right, and I feel it. Yep.
Yeah, totally. Oh, and next session you'll have one more crew member too, because Sean's joining us next session as well.
Nice. Hopefully he's a better shot than Lieutenant Jang.
Press gang him into playing the security guy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So for those listening at home, thanks so much for joining us for session 1 of our Star Trek Adventures campaign. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the game, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below. If we fuck something up in terms of canon or in terms of the system, I'm happy to have a constructive response, but little things like, Romulans don't do that or whatever, it's going to get deleted because I don't care. Like we're really interested in having a good time, and some people who want to help out in a constructive way to help us understand the system or the setting better. That's great. Nitpicking on canon, it's going to get deleted because it's just a game. The main goal of us is to have fun with it. So, but yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us for our first session of this. We hope that you found it entertaining and educational. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can leave a comment in the description. You can reach me on Twitter at Dungeon Musings. You can also shoot me an email, and my email address is dungeonmusings@gmail.com. We also can see that in the link or in the description of the video is a link to something called Heroes Save Villages. That is the charity fundraising campaign that we run on the channel. We don't do any other monetization. We don't, run a Patreon. We don't do ads. If you are interested in throwing some money the channel's way, I'd ask that you look at the Heroes Save Villages campaign and see if you might be interested in donating to the campaign, which benefits the SOS Children's Villages International charity, a really terrific charity that helps over 80,000 orphan and abandoned children in over 130 different countries. So you get a chance to maybe do some stuff to help affect our games a little bit and to be an actual hero and help out some very, very needy kids. Last but not least, I want to thank my players, the members of Starfleet. So Arlen, James, Jeff, thanks so much for joining me on Sunday. And next time we will be back at our regular start time when I'm not a dummy and tell the players the wrong time. And we'll be back for 3 hours starting at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. So thanks, guys, so much for playing today. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, this was great.
Cool. Then until next time, I'm fighting myself for not having a Star Trek outro, but I suppose until next time, folks, thanks so much for watching and live long and prosper.